to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology.
Donald Trump's return to the White House has ignited fears and debates across America. One question looms large: what does a second Trump presidency mean for LGBTQ+ rights? From rolling back protections to reshaping the Supreme Court, this battle isn't just political, it's personal. Let's unpack the controversial road ahead. As President-elect Donald Trump's victory sinks in, LGBTQ+ rights groups and individuals are confronting the implications of his return to power. Particularly with a GOP or grand old party, majority Senate poised to support his policies. Throughout his campaign, Trump frequently used anti-trans rhetoric in his speeches, advertisements, and policy platforms. One campaign ad claimed that his Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, was for they, them, not you, signaling a direct appeal against progressive stances on gender inclusivity. According to data from Ad Impact, Republicans spent nearly $215 million on anti-trans advertisements during this election cycle. Trump's inflammatory language targeting LGBTQ+ Americans, especially transgender individuals, is a continuation of patterns from his first presidency, during which he pursued policies aimed at rolling back protections for LGBTQ+ rights. Now, with a second term ahead, many LGBTQ+ Americans are concerned about the policies that could further affect their rights starting in January. Trump's official website outlines his Agenda 47, a 20-point roadmap for making America great again, which includes plans to curtail LGBTQ+ rights. Among his priorities are banning trans women from competing in women's sports and cutting federal funding for schools that promote radical gender ideology. Additionally, through his speeches, Trump has signaled his intent to reverse anti-discrimination protections introduced during President Joe Biden's administration and enact new laws that disproportionately target transgender individuals. The Trump campaign has outlined its proposed policies and their potential implications for the LGBTQ+ community. Responding to concerns, Trump-Vance transition spokesperson Caroline Leavitt stated, "President Trump will serve all Americans, including those who did not vote for him. He aims to unify the nation through success." Katie Iyer, a professor at Rutgers Law School, highlights that a Trump presidency could result in more conservative judicial appointments, significantly affecting how federal courts interpret cases. Currently, appeals courts have often ruled in favor of transgender individuals fighting discrimination, but this trend could shift under a Trump administration. Constitutional law serves as the foundation for addressing discriminatory laws. However, if courts are unwilling to enforce equality rights for LGBT individuals, that foundation loses its significance, Iyer explained. Here are 3 critical areas where a Trump presidency could influence LGBTQ+ rights. A ban on transgender individuals in the military. During Donald Trump's first term, he directed the Department of Defense to overturn a 2016 policy allowing transgender individuals to openly serve in the military, citing the cost of gender-affirming surgeries as the reason. This decision sparked numerous lawsuits against his administration. In 2021, the Biden administration reversed this policy, but experts predict that a reinstatement of the ban is highly likely if Trump returns to office, potentially triggering a similar wave of legal challenges. Healthcare restrictions. Recent years have seen an increasing number of state-led efforts to restrict gender-affirming care for transgender and gender-nonconforming minors. The Human Rights Campaign reported that 26 states had implemented bans or restrictive policies on such care, affecting nearly 39% of transgender youth nationwide. Trump has indicated that his administration would follow the example of these states, aiming to ban gender-affirming care for adolescents on a national level. This could include measures such as withholding federal funding from hospitals that provide this care, making it exceptionally difficult for transgender youth experiencing gender dysphoria to access what medical professionals consider essential, life-saving treatments. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, has already filed multiple lawsuits challenging state-level bans and has pledged to continue legal battles against any federal restrictions under a second Trump administration. Tara McKay, co-founder and director of the Vanderbilt LGBTQ+ Policy Lab, notes that such federal actions could escalate the issue, leading to more state-level bans. Since much of healthcare policy is controlled at the state level, progressive states may resist these measures by bolstering protections, while others could become even more hostile. States have control over healthcare, McKay explains. If Trump pursues a full federal ban on gender-affirming care for minors, progressive states will immediately challenge it, and it will end up in court. Similar to the abortion landscape, we'll see states mobilizing protections and others becoming increasingly hostile and life-threatening for targeted individuals. California Governor Gavin Newsom has already signaled plans to safeguard LGBTQ+ rights by convening a special session, citing the importance of protecting vulnerable communities following Trump's potential return to power. The success of Trump's proposed nationwide policies will also hinge on the outcome of key legal battles such as Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for minors, currently being contested in United States v. Scarametti. The Supreme Court's ruling could set a significant precedent, not only for transgender medical care, but also for broader civil rights issues, including access to public facilities and participation in sports. McKay highlights another critical area of healthcare already feeling the impact of Trump's potential return to power: LGBTQ+ mental health. She cites new research from her lab, which shows that exposure to negative news and media coverage about LGBTQ+ individuals and policies significantly increases suicidal ideation among LGBTQ+ teens and young adults. Since the election was called in the early hours of November 6th, the Trevor Project has reported a staggering 700% increase in calls to its crisis hotline. Amara Jones, an American political journalist and transgender activist, raises pressing questions about the future of transgender health under such circumstances. The key issue is, how are people going to stand up? Jones asks. Will states like New York and California push back against changing administrative rules? How much will groups claiming to support transgender rights actually step up? And how will trans individuals form communities and provide support for those most affected by these policies? Rolling back Title IX protections, education standards, and identification options. Trump has heavily focused on opposing transgender women's participation in women's sports. At a rally in Virginia on November 2nd, he stated his intent to keep men out of women's sports, framing this as a central part of his Agenda 47. His plan involves asking Congress to interpret Title IX as excluding trans women from participating in women's sports. During his first term, he worked to roll back Title IX protections for LGBTQ+ students. In contrast, during his term, Biden expanded Title IX protections for LGBTQ+ youth, reversing Trump-era policies that had narrowed the scope of the 1972 law. However, Biden avoided fully addressing issues related to transgender athletes. Trump has stated that, on his first day back in office, he would immediately undo these expansions. Moreover, he would not require congressional approval to reverse protections for transgender students. Simone Criss, a civil rights attorney and director of the Transgender Rights Initiative at Southern Legal Counsel, warns that the concern extends beyond sports. She highlights the potential danger of restrictive Title IX definitions of sex and gender, which could have sweeping implications for the LGBTQ+ community. The overarching goal appears to be redefining sex across the board in a way that excludes transgender individuals. States like Florida are already redefining sex in their education codes to be based on reproductive function, Chris explains. This aligns with Trump's broader plans to alter how schools address gender identity and sexual orientation. In January 2023, Trump pledged in a filmed address to cut federal funding for schools that discuss gender ideology. Chris emphasizes another alarming possibility. Trump could follow Florida's lead in redefining sex, potentially restricting transgender individuals' ability to access identification services that reflect their gender identity. This would have far-reaching consequences for their ability to navigate essential systems and services. Earlier this year, a memo from the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles announced that Florida residents would no longer be permitted to change the gender listed on their driver's licenses or state IDs. Chris warns that if similar restrictions are implemented federally for passports, the consequences could be severe for the transgender community. Having identification documents that accurately reflect who you are is crucial. It affects every aspect of a person's life, from employment to housing and daily interactions. The stakes couldn't be higher for the LGBTQ+ community and their allies, she explains. Trump's presidency could redefine rights and freedoms for millions. Will America move forward, or will it turn back the clock? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we navigate the most critical issues of our time. Until next time, this is Innovatronics TV. See you in the next video.